Good evening. Welcome again to our show, Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, your hostess for tonight's show, and we have a very high-flying lady to introduce to you in just a few seconds. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors. For the first half, we'd like to thank Vila Basque Cafe right here in Carson City, home of Pete's famous Basque and delicious chorizo. We'd also like to thank carsonnow.org. 24/7 you can go to this site, and anything that's happening here in Carson City, you can check it out on carsonnow.org. And we'd also like to say thank you to Carpa Nevada LLC, importer of fine Portuguese olive oils, balsamic aged vinegar, and international health teas. So let's meet our guest, Katie Griggs. Katie, welcome and thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Now, before we reveal what you do, all right, some people out there may recognize your face. That's quite possible. But help us to fill in the background. Where do you come from originally?
Well, born and raised Porterville, California, which is in the San Joaquin Valley.
Okay.
And both my husband and I come from there, and we lived there for, well, I was there for 30 years.
Long time,
Yeah.
long time. So do you consider yourself a California girl or a Nevada girl?
No, I've been here long enough. I consider myself a Nevadan.
Okay, nice, nice. Katie, when you were growing up in California, were you just one of several children? Were you an only child?
I have two older brothers.
All right. Did they teach you a lot of things that you needed to know?
Oh, dear. Yeah, probably. But we had a pretty normal childhood.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a privilege having older brothers. You know, maybe they were expecting when you were coming along a third brother, and then they got a little sister.
Yeah, they might have been disappointed there. I think I was a little bit of a brat, and they were good buddies, and
Yes.
I was just an annoyance mostly, yeah.
Interruption in their friendship. All right. I'm sure that has changed. Now, what did you follow your brothers around to see what they were playing or what they were doing, or did you have kind of a life unto yourself?
Oh, no, I was always following them around, trying to compete with them. I was quite a tomboy. Loved doing whatever they were doing, and I think that's part of their annoyance with me. And yes, it has changed. We're all good friends now.
Great, great. When you were young and with your brothers, what were the interests that you shared with them, and maybe what were some of the interests that you had individually?
Mostly sports.
Okay.
We were all encouraged to do whatever it was that was of interest to us, and we were very active. I think both my brothers were in track. They were both in basketball. I was in track and swimming. And
Okay. And that has a lot to do with the formation of us as children, doesn't it?
yeah, I think so.
I think sports can be enormously healthy for us emotionally as well as physically. And psychologically, it trains us to compete. It trains us to work as a team member.
Right.
There's a lot of value later on in life.
I think the team part of it is important. You know, just living with two boys in the family was part of a team sport. But being part of something bigger is always good.
Yes, and I think teamwork in a family, other than with your siblings, can also be, because a family really counts on their kids to help out, to put in time and effort with the family. And not only does it form, great relationships within families, but there's a lot of foundational strength that comes from being a member of a family. Yeah.
Right.
So when, as you were growing up, what about your education? Where did you take it, or where did it take you?
Well, I did a little bit of college in Porterville.
Okay.
But mostly, I took off. I went to Southern California, and
On your own?
On my own, yeah. Junior college is as far as I went with my education.
All right.
And most of the rest of my education was just on my own.
All right. And in traveling and meeting people, that's a special kind of learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Before you came to Nevada, can you share with us what were some of the lessons that you learned as a young woman, leaving the family, going out, so to speak, on your own? Anything that you came in contact with, anyone you came in contact with, that really served as someone that you wanted to keep your eye on or you wanted to learn from?
Well, I started out, I moved to Southern California, and I started my own business. It was drapery business because that's what my family business was. And that was my background. I grew up in a drapery business.
It was familiar.
It was familiar. Things didn't go like maybe I expected, and I moved back to Porterville.
How long were you in that business?
I was probably 3 years.
Okay, enough to kind of figure out, okay, am I going to make it with this or not?
Right. And it was okay. It just wasn't where I wanted to be.
All right, your interest was not there.
Kind of moved back home to kind of figure out what was the next step, and ended up working in the family business again, and liked it.
Yes.
A little more mature, a little bit more accepting, and
maybe applying some of what you had learned on your own.
Yeah.
Coming back, I don't know whether we can say this, coming back humbly, but more appreciative of what it takes to run a business, to be a part of a business.
Well, and I think it was easier, having been out on my own a little bit, to come back and work with my family, which was a great experience. And both my parents started the business the year I was born, and worked like dogs to get that business up and running, and to raise a family at the same time. So
you don't know which one you're married to, the business or the family.
Right.
Sometimes I understand that. I've been there.
Well, I think they did a great job with both. They figured out how to spend a lot of time with us and with their business. So
you came from a pretty stable background then.
Yes, very stable.
What brought you to Nevada?
Well, my husband and I, he was...
By the way, where'd you meet him?
Well, I met him actually at his house at a party that one of his very good friends brought me to. And when his friend showed up at another party without me and with somebody else, Forrest decided he would ask me out.
He stepped into the picture.
He did.
Smart man.
Yeah, I had been to his house, and he showed up at the drapery store, and I thought for sure he was there for draperies because I'd seen his house.
Yes. Logical conclusion.
Yeah, but no, he was there to ask me out, and by the way, I did put drapes in his house.
Okay.
I moved in and married him and completely draped his house. So
redid the whole thing.
Redid the whole thing. Yes.
Okay, so then what brought you to Nevada?
Well, Forrest, my husband, was in the propane business, family-owned business, and we sold the business to one of the other family members, and we moved to Incline Village, where we had a vacation home. We kind of wanted out of California. And
what was happening in California then that was putting your vision elsewhere into Nevada, so to speak?
Well, I guess being in the San Joaquin Valley, we were kind of in between San Francisco and Los Angeles. And when you vote, your vote doesn't really count as much as the bigger cities. And so we saw things that we would vote for that wouldn't come through, and the politics and the regulations. Being in the propane business, he had a lot of regulations that he had to abide by. And I think we were just looking for something a little bit different.
Maybe a little bit more laid back.
A little bit more open.
Easygoing.
Yes. And we felt Nevada was a good fit. Plus, it was not that far. And since all our family was still in Porterville, we wanted to be outside of California, but close enough to where we could still drive home in one day.
Okay, and Incline is beautiful.
We loved it up there. We were up there for 12 years. Absolutely paradise in the summertime. And
at that time, it was still kind of a well-kept secret.
Yeah.
From the rest of the nation, all right? Now the world has discovered Lake Tahoe, and it's not as private as it once used to be.
Well, it's on the 4th of July, there's not a place you can go where their houses aren't absolutely full. And in the wintertime, it's kind of a sleepy little town, but we got a little tired of the snow.
Yes.
So
you're going to have to deal with snow. You never know quite how much from year to year, but it can be awesome.
The older we get, the less we want to deal with the snow. So now we've moved down the hill, and we live in Dayton, and I love it out there.
Okay, so now you're in Dayton, and you're in the skies a lot.
Yeah, I am.
Why are you up there?
Well, because it's there. It's a great place to be. It's
what lured you to the skies?
Well, going back a little bit.
All right.
My father was a pilot. My mother was a pilot. Both of my brothers fly something. So it was only...
Such as?
Well, my oldest brother was a test pilot for an ultralight factory.
Okay.
And my other brother, who's also older, is a hang glider pilot.
Ooh, that scares me.
Yeah. He jumps off the side of a cliff with
Yes.
just a parachute and floats around. But they've been doing it a very long time, and they're both very proficient at it. So,
One summer I spent in Switzerland, and about a week before I was due to leave at the end of the summer, I had left Zurich and gone up into what was called Interlaken, which is nestled right in the middle of the Swiss Alps. And of course, there's all kinds of cliffs to jump off of. And I was drawn to this central green area in Interlaken, and I watched as these hang gliders came off the sides of the Alps.
it's fascinating, yeah.
Well, by the time they kind of got down toward the ground, I realized they had an instructor behind them, and they were sharing a seat of sorts.
Tandem.
A tandem, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they landed alive. And I said, do I have the courage to try that? Would I try it? And I spent 3 days watching them do this, building up the courage.
Yeah.
I didn't go. But I think looking at you, I might trust you. Do you also hang glide like your brother?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I would think I was a teenager when my brother started that. And at that time, they were the big kites. They weren't the parachutes that they are now.
Okay, yes.
And they're paragliders is what they're using now. But the big kites were too heavy and bulky, and I was not strong enough to hold it up. And
and there's a lot to having the strength to maneuver those.
Yeah, they're much lighter nowadays. Things have changed like in everything else.
And when we come back to the second half, we're going to find out exactly why you're in the skies and what you're doing up there with what. Okay? All right. Don't go away. We'll be right back with Katie.
Come to the Carson Horseshoe Club for fun and friendly service. Play your favorite games. Join our Players Club where you get cash for points plus food comps and enjoy casual dining in our Lucky Horse Grill. Get it all in the heart of downtown Carson City at the family-owned, local favorite Carson Horseshoe Club.
I was 36, wanted to do something that was boldly different. We sold our house, drove west with the idea that we were going to be in the wine industry. We lived in a teepee for 2 months.
I mean, if you're going to do something, why not do it with your whole heart?
It's that creative outlet of being able to make something and make something that comes from the land. Bank of the West said, we have complete faith in your brand. Don't do anything to compromise it. Banks don't say things like that.
Apex SCF provides cutting-edge, hands-on training that effectively addresses today's threats of violence.
The Apex Stay Alive course teaches proven methods for personal protection and attack countermeasures that can be applied in any environment. In your home, at the workplace, or on campus, Apex will teach you the necessary skills to stay alive, including how to recognize and react to an active shooter scenario.
If you knew you had to fight for your life tomorrow, would you train today? Contact us now to sign up for a class in your region.
Hi, I'm Stephen Lincoln with CarsonCityHomes.com, Carson City's original online real estate resource.
At CarsonCityHomes.com, you get effective and easy-to-use tools to help you select your next home today. With our easy-to-use website, you can search listings throughout Northern Nevada and narrow the results by selecting every facet, quirk, and quality you desire. Visit CarsonCityHomes.com.
How would you feel if a fire broke out in your home and you couldn't hear the smoke alarm? Especially if it's someone you love. Visit ReadyWasher.com to receive a smoke alarm that is specially designed for the deaf and hard of hearing. These smoke alarms send a wireless signal to a receiver that gives you strobe and vibration notification.
Local fire departments urge everyone to be prepared.
Visit ReadyWasher.com to help assure the safety of your family.
Welcome back to Women, our second portion with Katie Griggs. And we're going to find out what Katie is doing up in the air. She hasn't revealed that yet, okay? But first, I'd like to thank our brand new sponsors for Women in the year 2014. The Horseshoe Club and Casino right here in downtown Carson City. And if you step in, you're going to find a family-owned, very historical place of great interest, great comfort. So remember to think about the Horseshoe Club and Casino for a special visit. We'd also like to thank Dr. Kent Gabriel, noted plastic surgeon here in Northern Nevada. And Dr. Gabriel is a fine, fine physician with his background and his total conscientiousness about his patients. He's with them all the way. Okay, Katie, let's get back. Now, we know that your brothers fly. We know that you are of sorts a very special lady up there. What are you up there in?
A hot air balloon.
How many do you fly of those?
Well, I have 2 that belong to me.
All right.
I have a special shape that's a giant goldfish. And I have another one that is a racing balloon. It's shaped like a football. And
Yes.
it goes up and down very fast. As much as you can race in a balloon is up and down because they just go with the wind.
Right.
And then I also fly the Remax balloon.
For Steve Lincoln?
Yes, well, for Northern Nevada.
For Northern
Yeah.
Nevada, okay, but he is one of the background sponsors for you?
Yes, he is. He runs most of the operations in Carson City when I fly here.
All right. Now, why a hot air balloon?
Well, I think with the history of my family, everybody flying something, it was just a matter of time before I found the right vehicle.
Okay, and what makes a hot air balloon the right vehicle for you?
I got a ride and I was just fascinated with it. And
Because of the perspective looking down or because of the aerodynamics?
I think something about the having control over something that huge.
And they are enormous.
They are. They're gentle giants, and they go with the wind, and you don't have any control about where you're going unless you can read the wind. And so it's a special skill. Balloon pilots are certified pilots. You have to go through the FAA and get a regular pilot certificate to fly one.
That's good to know.
Yeah, so we're all trained, and if you see a balloon flying along, you know that they should know what they're doing.
Okay. I was sharing with you during the break that these gentle giants I met in New York on a Sunday morning about 6:30 in the summertime, and I thought literally there was a new monster, perhaps even a dragon, in our backyard, because as they come down, the sound is so different than anything else. And
They're very noisy.
they are, but they are just huge, larger than what your eye would imagine as you look up at them from the ground, and when they come down, they're in your backyard.
Yeah,
Wow.
they're 60 to 90 feet tall. And there's all different sizes of balloons too. So probably what you saw was a typical sport balloon. Might have been 60 to 70 feet tall, which is huge.
And they need quite a large space to come down in as well, don't they?
Well, they need a big enough space to be able to lay the balloon down. Yes. So
okay.
they were looking for a rather large field or somebody's nice big yard. Or
What are those balloons? What kind of fabric are they made from?
they're made, most of them, from a ripstop nylon.
Okay.
And some of them have Nomex around the throat of it.
The throat being the basket area?
Well, no.
Or higher?
The throat is the opening of the fabric.
Okay.
And the basket hangs below that.
Right.
And then there are cables that suspend the basket from the fabric.
How big are those baskets actually that the payee gets into?
Well, they're all different sizes. The one I've got is about 4 feet by 4 feet.
Cozy.
Yeah. And then you've got propane tanks in there too. But then there are baskets that hold 12 people.
And have you flown that size as well?
The largest I've flown is probably an 8-person.
Okay.
The really large ride baskets and ride balloons, I'm not terribly interested in that type of flying.
Okay.
More
Now,
for fun.
When you get up there, Katie, tell us what it's like in terms not only of altitude, but of weather conditions, temperatures. What do you have to prepare to wear as you go up in one of those balloons?
Well, typically, it's not going to be a whole lot colder in the air than it is on the ground. Sometimes it's even warmer if there's an inversion layer. you need to wear clothing that you can take off, because in the morning sometimes it's very, very cold to start with, and then as the sun comes up, it warms up, and so you kind of shed coats and shirts and things. Flying a balloon is, it's magical.
And I would think that everything has a totally different eyeful up at that height.
Oh, everything looks totally different. I can never find my way home because it doesn't look the same.
Right.
You see the roads, they all look great. I will send the chase crew on roads that look wonderful from the air, and they get on them and they're goat trails, So, and the way the cities are laid out, it's a fantastic view from up there.
Do you ever do any research or rescue in your balloon?
No, we do report things that we see that are odd or mysterious. I once saw a car in a canal, and so we called the sheriff's department and reported that. Right. We've seen vehicles abandoned, especially when we were in the San Joaquin Valley. You would see maybe a vehicle abandoned in some grove, an orange grove or something.
Do birds ever have difficulty with you up there?
Haven't really had a lot of trouble with birds. Did have one that wanted to land on the side, and he couldn't find anything to hang on to, and he kept trying to figure it out, but typically they kind of leave us alone.
All right. What do you have to pay specific attention to with winds or in terms of weather?
Well, we do a lot of preparation as far as the weather goes. We have to, you don't just go out and fly, you have to plan. And with the internet now, we can do all kinds of research on the internet.
For weather potentials?
Yeah, we can check the weather a week in advance, and then we can go back a couple of days in advance, and then the morning of the flight we check the weather, making sure that there isn't something unpredicted coming up to
unforeseen.
Yeah, 50 miles out there can be a thunderstorm that can affect us, and so we don't want that.
How long have you been flying balloons?
28 years.
So that was before the internet.
Yes.
Was there ever an occasion prior to this technology that caught you off guard, or that you really had to deal with something that you were not necessarily prepared or thinking it was on its way?
Well, even before the internet, we would call the weather service and get an idea of what was happening with the weather. I have been up there and had the wind pick up, and I've landed in some pretty fast winds, but we trained for that.
All right.
We
fast winds meaning how many miles per hour?
I think the fastest I've landed in is probably 30 miles an hour, and that's pretty fast in a wicker balloon, wicker basket.
Yes. What are some of those comments? If you take, more than yourself up, do you ever fly alone?
Not since I soloed.
Okay, and why not?
Because I'd rather share the experience with somebody else.
Okay.
It's very lonely up there by yourself.
Yes.
Now, some people like that, but I would prefer to take people with me and share the experience.
And maybe even for safety's sake. It's wiser to have two rather than one, or have two or three rather than just one. Is that ever an issue?
No, I think safety-wise, it's all up to me as to getting the balloon down on the ground. The passengers aren't going to help me land the balloon. As far as if I land out in the middle of nowhere, safety might be an issue then.
Okay.
But we don't do that very often. So,
well, from what I'm hearing you say, competency is all important with a pilot, and the training they receive. How many hours of training is it? Or do you go to school for this?
Well, it's the same as getting a pilot certificate for any other aircraft. You have to do a ground school. And I did it as a home study course. It took me probably over a year to get through the ground school. I had a 2.5-year-old at the time when I was learning to fly. And then you have to get so many hours in the aircraft. In a hot air balloon, it's only 10 hours.
That doesn't seem like enough.
It wasn't. I think I had 35 hours in a balloon, and typically you only fly for 1 hour. So that's 35 lessons and solo time that I had before I went for my private pilot.
All right.
And then you only need 30 hours for a commercial, and I think I had probably over 100 hours when I went for my commercial certificate.
Do you have children?
Well, I have one daughter. Yeah.
All right.
She's 30 now.
Does she share this passion with you?
She did for a short time when she was growing up. She grew up ballooning, so I think maybe ballooning got to be a little boring for her. And then she found boys, and she kind of decided getting up early in the morning wasn't as much fun as going out late at night. So,
What
now,
does she do today, by the way?
Well, she's actually a waitress.
Okay.
And she works at Jay's Bistro in Dayton.
All right. She likes her feet on the ground.
She does.
All right.
But she is a little interested in learning to fly. It's just now life has taken over and there's not as much time. But she's about the same age I was when I started. So
you never know. You know, Katie, there are qualities in all of us, characteristics in all of us that are developed, and sometimes they just emerge as we really find something that catches our interest. If you are interested as a woman in starting your own business, or even in going into the air as you did, as a certified balloonist, as a pilot of one of those, what types of qualities does there need to be in women who are willing to do what you're doing? What are some of the basic characteristics of a personality that can handle this kind of work?
Well, I think confidence. You have to have confidence. You have to, I think anybody can do this. I really do. I think you just have to have the desire.
I would have
strong
to
desire.
Okay. I'm usually a pretty confident person, okay, I have backup though that helps me to get there. But I would have to overcome some fears.
Well, I have no fear of height.
Okay. Okay.
So that you probably,
Yes.
But a lot of pilots do. And
have a fear of height.
Yeah, and it's when you are in control of this aircraft, you are in total control. It's
and those don't become issues up there in the air because you're so well trained. You have spent your time not only on the ground learning and practicing and learning the mechanics and not only the size of the balloon, but what it can do in drafts and winds, etc.
Well, the training is intense, and we have safety seminars. In fact, I put on a safety seminar every year for the pilots in this area. And safety is one of my passions. The longevity of this sport won't be around if we don't keep it safe.
Correct.
And education is the next thing that is important, because most of the people that I know that fly balloons are as gray as I am, if not grayer.
Okay.
So it's an aging sport.
All right. And we don't see the younger people going into it?
Not as much. And we have a few younger people that are coming into the sport, but not nearly what we need to keep this sport alive.
Why do you suppose that is?
I think it's expensive, and I think there's just so many other things to do, and we all seem so busy. And
I would love the silence of the air.
Oh, it is wonderful up there.
Is it as noisy in the balloon up there as it is when it comes down?
Well, it's noisy, but you burn for 3 seconds, and then you don't for 15 or 20.
Okay.
And so, or even longer. You know, I don't even know how long I burn. It's just second nature anymore.
Well, you know, this has been such an educational program for me, and I thank you so much for being on.
Oh, you're welcome.
When I look up on the Nevada Day Parade, I know Katie is probably up there amongst them, and they are beautiful. They're breathtaking. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, a pleasure. And we'll see you next week with a brand new guest. Wave to Katie when you're out there. One of those balloons has probably heard the big goldfish, okay? Take care. We'll see you again next week.